Amir Bhai for extremely generous introduction. I'm really overwhelmed and I must congratulate Ashish for writing an excellent book. God protect you, that's what I can say. Now, I would like to say it without any hesitation, though I was supposed to read the entire book. But the stories Ashish has written can only bring tears to your eyes, and you won't be able to finish this book if you have a sensitive heart. And why I could not finish this book? Because in 1980, when we were living in Moradabad, I had an argument with my brother, and therefore I said I will not come for the Eid prayer with him and with my father, late my father. And I said I'll go separately, independently to another mosque. I will not go to Eidgah, and I'll pray in a locality mohalla mosque. So this happened, I didn't go. And when I came out of this mosque, I saw a lot of people, and I was still a small child. I was in 9th. And I saw a lot of people, some people carrying, bodies of injured people, profusely bleeding. And I really couldn't understand. And since my mother has asked me to get some yogurt from Moradabad's most famous shop, Shankar Mishthan Bhandar, so I went there. And there also I saw a lot of people. And then somebody saw me and said, run. And I started running to reach some Muslim locality. Believe me, how many years it has been? 20 plus 21. Off and on, I still get that dream. I still sweat in night. I have sweated in, Canada when temperature was minus 10 degrees. And therefore, it's not the story of just people who died in a riot. In fact, they were lucky that they died. कहते ना मौत क्या एक लफ्ज़ बेमानी जिसको मारा हयात ने मारा. It's the people who have seen communal violence and communal riots and they are not dead, who have to have this pain all their life. And for people like Khetan, who had the courage to go there and as a cover-up and document all this, I think he deserves our appreciation. And somebody who belongs to legal fraternity, having done his LLM from Cambridge, and has also been a political leader, even though his party is equally disappointing, so to say. Former party, if I can say. He referred to Delhi riots and also referred to Shaheen Bagh, this and that. But the way Arvind Kejriwal conducted himself is hugely disappointing. And he has also referred to that Goli Maro slogan. But victory of Arvind Kejriwal may be a small consolation, but it does not give us any idea, because Manisha is right, that now we have gone far. And therefore, whether X is ruling us or Y will rule us, it will not matter anymore, because the institutional decay which has taken place. Now, Amir Bhai talked of law, so let me talk of little bit of law. Even though Khetan referred to so many cases, and I must say that we need to, in a way, appreciate post-Gujarat civil society, where people like Khetan and Teesta and others went there. Not only they did a lot of relief work, but the way they pursued these cases, we have a history of communal riots in this country, pre-partition, post-partition. But in no communal riot, this kind of accountability was fixed, and you got that many convictions, and top people were punished. Maya Kodiani was a minister, was punished. It's a different story that in the Change India, while people against whom no crime has been committed languish in jails, denied in bail, even for the jokes which they have not cracked yet, because there was an attack by the vigilante group. But our Supreme Court has given bail not only to Maya Kodiyani on ill health or whatever, but to several others, saying that they, while they are on bail, will do social service. I think our court is too optimistic about them. Therefore, for me, of course, I was not in India when Gujarat riots took place, so I probably was saved, didn't read much about them. But the frustration which I have as a student of law is this, that I have been taught by my teachers, and I have taught succeeding generations of lawyers and judges, that the king is under law and God. I was taught by my teacher Thomas Paine's famous statement, law is king in America, or we have a government of laws, not men. Or what Thomas Aquinas said, laws which failed to promote equity and common good were unjust, and thus had quality not of law, but violence. Now that is more frustrating for me, that it's one thing that somebody misused law or misused politics and wanted to get votes. Many other leaders have tried to polarize. Many other leaders have also been highly communal. But the way law is either disappearing, or the way the instrumentality of law is being used by political masters in UP or in Madhya Pradesh now to take away not my freedom. You have seen there has been no opposition whatsoever from Muslim quarters of this love jihad conversion ordinance, because Muslim clergy also doesn't want that their sons and daughters should fall in love with people of other faith. So on this, they are on board with Yogi Adityanath. And therefore, the opposition need to come from Hindu women. It is their agency which is being undermined, that they are so stupid that anyone can take advantage of them, anyone can befool them, and we need some kind of law to protect them. True what Manisha is saying, that of course there is a difference between Hinduism and Hindutva, and many people don't have a problem with Hinduism, because after all in Hinduism you had this good tradition of Swamvar, that the would-be bride would herself choose husband and then put the Varmala in the husband. Sita did it, Draupadi did it, but we don't want to give this right to the 21st century Hindu women. And therefore I am also reminded of, and I would like to read just one sentence from Joseph Raz, because that's what it is, India of today, if you talk from purely legal perspective. It is to be insisted that law is only of the values that a legal system may possess, and by which it is to be judged. It is not to be confused with democracy, justice, equality before the law or otherwise, human rights of any kind, or respect for persons or the dignity of man. A non-democratic state legal system based on the denial of human rights, or extensive poverty, or racial segregation, sexual inequalities, and religious persecution may in principle conform to the requirements of rule of law better than any of the legal systems of more enlightened Western democracies. This does not mean that it will be better than those Western democracies. It will be immeasurably worse legal system, but it will excel in one aspect, in its conformity of rule of law. I think we have deteriorated even from this, because in many Islamic or autocratic states, while you don't have democracy, you don't have human rights, you don't have dignity of individual, there may be also cases of persecution, but they have perfect law and order. And that is why I think India today, issues after issues, gives UP Chief Minister Best Chief Minister Award. Because you may have encounters of all kind of people. The Chief Minister is on record to have said, biryani nahi, bullet, thok do. If in a democratic constitutional system, an elected head of a government says thok do, then I think we had it. So there is no rule of law. It is now rule by law. And what kind of rule by law we are having? I think you had this right, you may have many more rights. Many people had already forgotten Gujarat. But in last 19 years or so, we have really traveled distances. As Harshmander will put it, for every story of sexual exploitation or killing of people or raping of women in one locality, you will have 3-4 incidents from the same story where the Hindus came forward, rose to the occasion and protected Muslims. This does not happen anymore. So if Junaid is killed, young boy who has just completed his recitation of Quran during Taraweeh and with some small money want to purchase some Eid clothes, the way he is killed, nobody came forward. So I think we are living in a situation where no law will work now. No judiciary will work now. I don't know whether that leader about which Ashish made a prediction that maybe somebody committed to liberal, enlightened, pro-democracy, pro-human rights, can get that kind of support. And probably we were as communal as we are today in a same kind of thing post-partition. And for very right reasons, the country was partitioned in the name of religion. Large-scale communal violence followed the partition. Yet you did have Nehru. And even Patel and Azad and other leaders who were able to somewhat tame this communalism. So this painful reading of book and understanding that it's Gandhi's Gujarat where you had such kind of violence unleashed against poor and helpless people just for the sake of votes, just to have power. If this is so, then it is problematic. But as I said, things have deteriorated in India from 2002. They have deteriorated in the entire world. So democracies are dying. Look at the kind of support Donald Trump enjoys in the United States. Of course, their media did not give up and has put up a very, very spirited opposition to the government. Hungary, Turkey, so many countries. So democracies today, world over, are turning authoritarian. Today there is no military coup. Ziaul Haq took over or General Ershad took over. That kind of thing is gone. Pinochet took over. Today there is no danger from bullet. The danger is from ballot. And some people have perfected this art that if we can polarize and create hate, we will always get a very, very high share of votes, as the latest India Today report says, some 43-44% people in support. So I think anyone who is interested in Indian democracy, and who should be more interested? The majority community. You have white terrorism. More people in United States have died in this local domestic white terrorism, then the jihadi terrorism, so to say, after 9/11. And therefore I see, I have been saying, of course, my liberal friends are very unhappy with me. But what I say in next 2-3 minutes, kindly bear it with me. I am not saying you become a Hindu Rashtra. Why? Because I feel if a state adopts any religion as a state religion, it will be against the interest of the religion. Because then a state will dominate that religion. We have seen what Muslim countries have made of their Islam. But if still you want to go that way, do it. I am not saying it is my preference. And I have written on this, but I am making a prediction that the way and at a place where we have reached in our hate and contempt of minorities, particularly Muslims, the foot soldiers of Hindutva will now cannot be satisfied with anything less than Hindu Rashtra. And therefore, any talk of secularism is meaningless. Because as Manisha said, some of the best liberal writers have been opposing this Western alien Jeffersian wall of separation between church and state for decades now. We have been talking of positive secularism. Our meaning of positive secularism is, since Hindu code bill has been enacted, Muslim code bill should also be enacted. Equality of religion means whatever Hindu got, Muslim should also get. So now even secularism as an argument has been hijacked by the communalists. And therefore, forget about secularism. After 2019 victory, in the victory speech, the Prime Minister himself said, nobody could dare to mention word secular in the election campaign. And that is why Arvind Kejriwal is what he is today. Because going to minorities, mentioning minorities issues, mentioning secularism is not a good political strategy anymore. And therefore I said, let us ask them what is their wish list. Don't ask minorities whether they want X right, Y right. They don't want any right, in my opinion. We should try to know what is their wish list. Ashish said in his 370 Ram temple conversion, I asked one High Court judge who was very close to RSS. He said, no, we are okay with this. If one conversion law, anti-conversion law is made, that's enough, nothing more. But this is not so. So what kind of Hindu Rashtra we would be? I think that should be now subject of discussion. So you have various models. One model is of Pakistan. So the constitution will declare that India shall be a Hindu Rashtra. Okay, Pakistan constitution also declares so. Or it will say that the top constitutional positions will go only to Hindus. But nothing beyond this. Because even Pakistan constitution and citizenship law says citizenship will not be given on the basis of religion. So all these 20 crore people will not lose citizenship. And that's why I say having a Hindu Rashtra may only temporarily satisfy Hindutva foot soldiers, because they are going to be most disappointed with the Hindu Rashtra. Because if it is in their mind that they can get rid of these many people, then that does not happen even in a Hindu Rashtra. Will we remove Article 14, right to equality and equal protection of laws, if we become a Hindu Raj? No, we cannot. Or right to life and personal liberty? No. That is a right available not only to citizens, even to foreigners in India. Or freedom of religion available to citizens as well as foreigners. So all fundamental rights will remain. Nothing radically is going to change. And therefore, even Hindutva declaration of India as a Hindu Rashtra may not be that great a proposition, and people will get frustrated by this. Mosques will exist, people will go and pray. So you have such models. Queen of England is still the defender of faith, head of the Anglican Church. So if you want to be a religious state, most likely you would become a religious state like England or like Sri Lanka, that you will say Hinduism is the dominant cultural heritage of India. That's all. And therefore, if you have reached a point where the UP government opens a bank account for the Ram temple and asks its employees to voluntarily donate, I think what is the fun of having word secular in your constitution? If we garland people, a sitting minister garlands people who are involved in lynching on getting bail, then why make so much of fuss about retaining a word? After all, Shakespeare said, what is there in the name? But I think common Hindu masses must be worried about large-scale mass radicalization of the majority community. Radicalization of Islam or Christians or Buddhists is also equally bad. But one has to salute those who are able to convince successfully that the massive majority of some 80% people are under threat. Reference was made to demography. For 100 years we are telling lie. Ashish says facts are important. No, facts have become irrelevant. We live in post-truth era. Forget about facts. Facts no more matter. And the last line, very interesting line on which he closes his book. Did we do enough to resist? Who are these we? It cannot be Muslims. Muslims do not have the burden to keep country secular, liberal, modern, democratic. That burden is the burden of the majority community. How should we resist? Ashish, you didn't tell us. Of course, you are also talking of some individual committed to secularism, liberalism, will be able to get same kind of support, but that is very less. So Ashish successfully diagnosed the disease, has told us the condition, very pathetic condition of the patient, but has not suggested any treatment.
Prescription.
Yeah, because there is no treatment. One treatment I am telling you is okay, this is some emotional issue. Sort it out. In Bangladesh, initially Mujib listed 4 principles as the core principles of their constitution, including who brought in Bismillah ar-Rahman Rahim and this and that, made it an Islamic state, then their Supreme Court stuck it down. And then there again they amended the constitution and brought in secularism. So as Shashi Tharoor once said that India may become Pakistan, and I was convinced India is not going to become Pakistan, but it seems to be now a global problem that the majority feels that they are under threat. With all the power in their hands, they feel खतरा है. हमारे बचपन में तो इस्लाम खतरे में था. अब now Hinduism is in danger. It's too great a religion, you know, to have any kind of danger if it has survived centuries of British and Muslim rule, so to say. Why there is any danger? I don't know whether there is any hope, but at least one success of Shaheen Bagh was that where all constitutional law teachers like us failed, we couldn't teach constitution even to law students who came to us. But one has to salute these old women, Dadi Bilqis and others. They have taught constitution to the entire country. Everyone was reading preamble. So this adoption of a constitution and this reiteration of commitment to the constitutional values, if we can achieve that, probably there is a hope. But remember, if we want only X religion not to dominate politics and disappear from public square, and Y religion should remain, it will not happen. Then you have to take a stand. All religions, whether it is Islam or Christianity or Buddhism or Jainism or Hinduism, should have nothing to do with the state. That strong position of separation of church from state, I am sorry to say, many Muslims have not taken in this country so far. Are they willing now to adopt this path of relegating religion to private homes? That is the challenge. Thank you.